Hey, what's up everybody? I'm JBFlintlock. In this video we're going to talk about locks and triggers. I'm just going to kind of generally discuss them, just kind of go over the real basics of it. We're going to get into some high level talks about locks and triggers as well in some later videos. But for today, what I'm doing is, this is the fifth video in my winter video series, and I'm trying to start these videos for those that maybe don't know a lot about muzzle loaders and maybe just getting into it, thinking about purchasing one or maybe having one built. And so I just want to go over some of like the terminology, some of the different options that you can choose from, so that you pick what's right for you when you invest. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on my website. It's www.jbflintlock.com, or you can comment in this video below. So back to locks and triggers. I'm going to start off with triggers. I feel that a good set of triggers really makes the gun. So you have some options. You have single triggers, you have double triggers, which are double set triggers, and then you have what are known as single set. So those are the three main types. There's other, little bit different variations out there, but those are basically it. So a single trigger just works as a single lever, pivots at one point, and whenever the trigger is pulled rearward, it contacts the sear of the sear bar on the lock, making the lock, doesn't matter what type of gun, they work the same, percussion or flintlock, the same actions happen to get the hammer to fall. So real basic, real early, in guns, things like that. So why might you want a single trigger? Well, if it fits the style and the trigger guard of your gun. So if you're building a gun and you've already picked your trigger guard, sometimes all you can fit is a single trigger. You don't have room for double set triggers. Some of the smaller rifles, things like that, just don't have room for it. Also, if you're shooting a smooth bore, most competitions only allow for a single trigger. You're not allowed set triggers in smooth bores. So that would be one, another reason to go with single trigger. Now, when it comes to double set triggers, you have two options. You have single lever and double lever. Now, what I mean by this is on the internals of the trigger, you have the bar is extended, and what it allows you to do is fire from the front trigger. So I have this Kibler Southern Mountain rifle, and it is equipped with double lever triggers. So I'll demonstrate. So I'll go back to full cock, close the frizzen. Now I can set the rear trigger, and now set it off with, let me do it to where the camera can see it. So I set the back trigger, and I'll fire off the front trigger. Now I'll do it again, and this time I'm just going to use the front trigger. Now it's a longer pull and it's a little bit heavier, but it still allows you to fire with the front trigger. So why is that a nice option? Well, if say you're out hunting with the rifle and you want to be safe when you're moving through the woods and things like that, if you had your trigger set and a branch even just touched the front trigger, the gun could go off. So you would want something that's much safer. You wouldn't want to be walking around with the hammer at full cock either, but let's just say you forget to lower it and you're walking around, you wouldn't want your trigger set to very light. So it gives you the option, if you have to pull up and shoot quickly or make a shot on a deer, you can use that front trigger. Say it's really cold and you're afraid that you're not going to be able to feel that light trigger. You can leave it unset and fire just with that front trigger. Now, say you want to go to a meat shoot or a local gun club and you want to do, that type of entry-level competition. You know, or you want to make a precise shot when you're out hunting. You have a deer standing at maybe a little bit longer distance, you have more time to set up and make a good shot. That's where the set trigger is really nice. You can set the trigger, and then what that does is give you the front trigger a nice, crisp, light trigger pull. So it gives you the best of both worlds, having that double lever option. Single lever, I have that in my competition gun, so it is double triggers, but it will only fire if the rear one is set. That's just how it is. No real preference there. I don't think there's, you know, a whole lot of advantage. But if you're going to set the gun up and you know basically you're going to be firing always with the trigger set in a scenario like that, then single lever would be fine for you. The last one I'm going to touch on is single set triggers. So this is something that, you know, you have one trigger, and in order to set it or make it light, you push the trigger shoe forward a little bit. Now, these are really good for target shooting and things where you're in a controlled environment, you know, but me personally, I probably wouldn't want one on a hunting gun. Just in the case of maybe I'm wearing gloves or something like that, you know, it may not function quite as well as double set. I'm just used to double set triggers, but it does allow you the option of getting a set trigger in a smaller trigger guard or on a smaller rifle, you know, or something like that. So those, you do have options. So I would definitely, when you see those, when you're shopping around, you know, or if you see a gun with, you know, double set triggers, you can inquire, you know, what type, so that you know before you buy. So I hope that that's useful to you. The next thing I want to talk about real briefly is locks. So there are a ton of different styles of locks out there, and the styles are based off of originals and different builders and how they built theirs, you know, back in the day, and then what the reproductions now look like. So this is a deluxe siler that's been modified, but basically a flintlock is going to have the same major components internally and externally, but they might be slightly different between manufacturers. But basically you have your hammer, your frizzen, and the pan. The rest of it is all just style, and, you know, whether the shape of the hammer, the shape of the lock face, you know, the angles, everything like that. Now we're going to get into some lock geometry a little bit later, but basically what I want to encourage you is, when you're looking at guns, you want to kind of look for, when the hammer's in the down position on a flintlock, ideally the flint is pointing into the pan so that those sparks are aiming down at your pan. I see production ones, I don't want to name any names, but I see them that the geometry is all kind of off, and the flint ends up pointing at clear up at the pivot, or, you know, the lower portion of the frizzen when it's flipped forward. And what happens is that you might get a good number of sparks, but they miss the pan, or they just kind of go wherever. So what I like to see is at half cock, that flint is aiming for about 3/4 of the way up the face of the frizzen. You can get around this by flipping your flint over so that it strikes, you know, that high up. But you're better, the locks with better geometry are going to, you know, hit at that angle and finish at the right position. So some other things that you can look for that make for a nice lock are a roller frizzen, so it reduces the friction on the frizzen and the frizzen spring, so that it's a nice smooth action. There are some other things that we're going to get into on some higher level videos that have been done to like this competition lock, and I'm going to show you everything, what I use and what I think gives the best advantage for speed, and not just speed, but having a smooth lock. So I hope that you found this video informational, and you're able to put all this into consideration if you're buying or building a gun or something like that. If there's anything I missed, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if I'm doing a good job. If you like this type of content. Also, subscribe to my channel so you can see the upcoming videos. We're going to definitely step it up here as we get along and get into some higher level stuff. We're going to, I'm going to get maybe a second camera in here. We're going to get some tight shots so that you can really see what I'm talking about and that sort of thing. So, as always, thank you and safe shooting.